Respected Swami Maharaj, Secretary of the Vivekananda College, Dr. Chandrasekhar, Principal of the College, Head of the Department of Commerce, other faculty members, my good friend Mr. V.M. Shivasubramaniam, who is the former Chief Commissioner of Income Tax. He just called me half an hour back and said, I would like to come and look at his sincerity has already come. So that is the interest he takes in some of these subject matters. Professor Sudarshan, my neighbor, and so many other friends present here, and my dear students. First of all, I am extremely delighted to come back to my alma mater because this is exactly the place which taught us several aspects of life. We've learned several life lessons. We learned a lot of subject matter issues in the college. We learned how to play cricket. We learned so many things which happens in the college in the 3-4 years that we spent, and we spent it in a manner that we absorbed every bit of the experience that we underwent in this institution, like all of us do. So I thought I will do this talk in a slightly different manner. The subject is budget, but not necessarily that one has to go through the contours of the budget to understand the budget. Times have changed. Budget making processes have changed. It used to be a very secretive document a few decades back. Today it's an open secret. I mean, there's nothing that people do not know about the economic affairs of the country because social media and the way communication has evolved has made economics as a subject real time. It's no longer that you have to wait for a particular day to understand the economic realities of a particular nation. So budget is an annual exercise that this country has gone through right from 1947 to 2024. It will continue to be an annual exercise. It's a constitutional requirement. It's a procedural sort of a necessity, and therefore this has to be pursued in its logical course, which has happened over the last 76 years. But I just want to sensitize all of you the importance of a budget, of any budget, leave alone a national budget. We all are responsible individuals. We run families, we run households, we prepare a household budget. And our typical household budget is all about your income stream, your expenditure stream, and what you save. This country saves 31% approximately. We are still a savings-oriented country. It has dropped from 37% of GDP to 31%. But still it's a savings-oriented country. That's what is helping the country to bolster its resources. So any budget is important for a monitoring standpoint. And like all of us monitor our household budgets very meticulously, we also as stakeholder, as one of the stakeholders of a 144 crore population, we need to monitor our national budget which we own. You don't have to own it only you have your piece of paper in your house. But this annual budget is as important to each one of you present here as it is to the lawmakers, as it is to the parliamentarians, as it is to any other person associated with the budget making process. So you own it. Now to understand the union budget, it is imperative that we go through some very important budget documents that are placed in the parliament every year. In fact, one day before the budget, there is a document which is presented called the Economic Survey of India, which gives you a historical perspective of what has happened in the previous year. The economic survey was tabled on the 22nd of July, which gave you, it's a 553-page document. It will be very difficult to read all those things. But some of the important chapters in the economic survey give you a pointers to what is going to happen in the forthcoming year, 2024-25. But I would urge all of you to take the chapter relating to artificial intelligence. Take the chapter relating to savings, investment, and growth. Take the chapter relating to household savings and how savings have moved from traditional savings to mutual funds. There is a chapter around that. So those 3-4 chapters of the economic survey, if you go through as students, it will give you a very crystal clear idea about how the trajectory of India's finances are moving and how it has moved over a period of time and what are the pointers for the future. Now, on the budget documents, there is a very simple receipts and payments account. Like all of us, all of your commerce students, you know what is receipts and payments, you know income and expenditure, you know a balance sheet of a typical sole proprietor partnership firm or a company. Similarly, India's receipts and payments, India's fiscal deficit, India's revenue deficit, India's various types of expenditure at the central level are all captured in the budget document called receipts and payments. Just go through it once. It will give you a feeling of satisfaction because of the sheer size of the numbers. Then go through some of the important announcements which are made in the budget speech. Then another document is called Statement of Revenue Foregone. The government of India gives you a lot of concessions, lot of deductions. What is the revenue foregone because of that? There is a document. If you read some of these documents, it will also help you as students to understand some of the normal balance sheets that you go through in your normal classrooms. And it will give you a satisfaction, number country oda balance sheet namak purinjiruthu. So it will give you a tremendous self-confidence that you are part of a very large sort of a balance sheet ecosystem which you own. Now, coming to some of the important niceties, I'll just touch a few points just to sensitize you. You can go back and read. Today, we are the 5th largest economy in the world. If you look at India's ranking in the world, we have done tremendously well over the last few years. And before that, I also want to tell you that there is a way in which you demarcate history in this country. Pre-1947, post-1947. We attained independence in 1947, therefore post-1947 we own this country. Economic independence we got in 1991. If you look at the economic history of this country, there are two phases. Pre-1991 phase, post-1991 phase. In 1991 June or May, this country was almost declared bankrupt. We had foreign exchange reserves exactly to take care of 10 days imports. Our bank balance was next to zero in 1991. When the government took charge in 1991, Mr. P.V. Narasimha Rao was the Prime Minister and Dr. Manmohan Singh was the Finance Minister. They made some very radical decisions to turn this company around. Today, as I speak, our foreign exchange reserves is $683 billion US, which can take care of 10 months imports. 10 days imports was the situation in 1991. And in 2024, you're sitting on a velvet of 10 months imports. We're going to touch $700 billion in another 3 months' time, which in debt terms, you can service 98% of your debt through this $700 billion. So this country has come a long way from 1991 to 2024. And that's why I say from an economic standpoint, it's something called a pre-1991 regime and a post-1991 regime. US is the largest economy at $25 trillion. China is the second largest at $18 trillion. When you say size, it means value of goods and services produced in a particular year. Japan is 4.2, Germany is 4.07, and we are at $3.35 trillion. We are 5th. Aspirationally, we want to be the 3rd largest economy in another 2 years' time. We will get there. Because 3.35 catching up to 4 is not very difficult. Japan is degrowing. Germany has their own set of problems. US is a different ballgame altogether, but we'll be next to US and China in another 2 years' time. What does it mean to all of you? That is important. All you students sitting here in another 2 years' time, you will be the 3rd largest economy in the world. Tremendous opportunities are in front of you. Tremendous opportunities. And commerce is the lifeline of existence. Whatever be technology, whatever be manufacturing, whatever be production, whatever we do, finally it's all about nuts and bolts, numbers, balance sheet, P&L account, profit, dividend. Finally it all results there only. So when 2-3 years' time, if you look at the opportunities in front of you and the speed at which we are growing at 8.2% last year. The world grew at 3.2, we grew at 8.2. And next year we are going to grow at 6.5%. So India is outbeating the world average as far as growth is concerned. So when you are participating in this growth, in wherever you are, then you will naturally be the recipient of the success arising out of this growth agenda of the government. That is one. Second point I want you to understand is, in 1947-48, when the finance minister presented his budget, R.K. Shanmugam Chetty was the finance minister, the total revenue receipts was 147 crores. The total expenditure was 197 crores. We had a paltry deficit of 50 crores. Very small number. Today, our revenue receipts is 31 lakh crore. Our total expenditure is 42 lakh crore. We are sitting on a large revenue receipts. Buoyancy is there in tax revenues. Buoyancy is there in expenditure. Buoyancy is there everywhere. But the good part is our debt, overall debt is well under control. It used to be a little scary 10, 15 years back. We brought it tremendously under control because of some good prudent management. It has gone across governments. It's not that it's a result of 1 or 2 years. It's a culmination of several efforts that have happened over a period of time. So our overall debt to overall GDP is now about 81%. It used to be 95%. Japan is at 245%, America is at 180%. So our debt to GDP is a very manageable number today. And which is important, because the last thing that a country should do is to hand over to the next generation unmanageable debt. We are in a situation that we are able to manage our debt. Our interest payment this year is going to be 11,43,000 crore, which is 1/3 of our revenue receipts, which is okay. It used to be 40-45% 3-4 years back. So we've controlled that also. Our outstanding liabilities are also under control. So the macro numbers are all in fairly good shape. Now, the thrust of this budget are 2-3 points. Continuity, infrastructure development, middle class, MSME, small businesses, and ensuring that the rural India is somewhere getting its due recognition in terms of the budget allocations and budget sort of a SOPs. That seems to be the overarching principle around this budget. I am not getting into too many details. But the thrust is all about rural, middle class, and bolstering what is called the so-called people who are not so fortunate to come above the surface and improve their income level. That is the overall principle. In some form or shape it is there, either in the tax proposals or in the indirect tax proposals or in some of the schemes which have been doled out. Those details are there. You go through it carefully. You will try to get to understand some of those things. Why is infrastructure important? I want to tell all of you, because as students you will be definitely involved in some of these infrastructure related initiatives. This year the allocation is 11,11,000 crores. I don't know the symmetry between 11. In fact, they said 11 lakh, 11,000, 11 crore, 11 lakh, 11,000, 11 lakh, something. All ones were there in that number, coincidentally or otherwise. But anyway, the allocations are huge. The investment in infrastructure has got an economic implication and has got a commercial implication. Every rupee of infrastructure has got a multiplier effect of 230 times of job creation. Any investment in infrastructure has got a 230 times, 2.3 times multiplier effect. So therefore, whatever investments have happened in infrastructure over a period of time, last 3-4 years, have produced more jobs, produced more economic activity, will continue to do so in years to come. That's why you look at the large infrastructure projects that have happened, that have helped this country now to get better roads, better airways, better port facilities, better overall development as far as the infrastructure game is concerned. That is going to continue unabated in this budget. Second is the whole game around skilling, teaching, skilling, training, education. And sitting in Vivekananda College, if I don't talk about education in the budget, I will not be doing justice to the job. Countries like France have phenomenal budget for education. We are not getting there, but at least aspirationally we want to allocate at least 5% of the GDP for education. And it's not the money part alone. You should not get confused between money and education. You can allocate crores for education. What about the quality? I was very upset when I read in the economic survey, there is one chapter on graduates. And they have mentioned that 50% of the graduates coming out of the colleges in India are unemployable. They don't have the necessary skill set to be employed, though they have got a graduate. This is the gap to be bridged by skilling. And the budget seeks to address it by providing a public-private partnership to the whole game of skilling. They want 1,000 ITIs to be upgraded. They want private companies, they want to give concessions to private companies to skill youth, 1 crore youth every year through CSR initiatives and all that. But to my mind, this has to be given a much more serious thought and action than what has happened in the recent past. Because to me, skilling, training, developing teachers, and making graduates more employable is the most important item in the agenda, which has to be a very focused effort with outcomes to be measured maybe on a half-yearly basis or an annual basis. To me, that's the most important thing. Then 2 more points, and then I will probably stop with that. As I mentioned about savings, I think what has really helped in the last 2-3 years post-COVID is that our investment growth has also been quite rapid. Our consumption growth has also been quite rapid. It's not either or, both are firing on all cylinders. And what has really happened is because of that, in the last 2 years, 33,000 companies were taken as a survey, and 33,000 companies out of the large 6,000 listed companies have quadrupled their profits in the last 2-3 years. So the corporate performance generally has been very upbeat across industries, financial services, infrastructure, FMCG, and all that. So there has been an all-round sort of a performance improvement across corporates, which is good for all of you, because some of you will get into some industries and you will have to find your feet there. The good thing about it is, it's not only technology that is firing, it's even manufacturing which is doing well, and the services and even the FMCG companies are also doing well. This third point, or the last point, and I'll stop with that, and then I will just tell you where else to focus attention on, is that the chapter on artificial intelligence and analytics, these are 2 subjects which are engaging world attention. And India has always been at the forefront as far as technology is concerned. The world may start somewhere, but India will catch it up very quickly. If you take telecom, the world started the telecom movement a few years, but we galloped very quickly. We became the largest telecom users in no time. Similarly, on artificial intelligence and analytics. Our IT backbone is so strong that we develop one of the top-class IT engineers to develop artificial intelligence and technology solutions. This is one area where all of you students will definitely be interested in, but I just want to take this subject with a pinch of salt. See, artificial intelligence, there is a feeling that it's going to displace jobs. There's a huge debate going on worldwide that it may actually reduce jobs, it will contract the number of people coming into the job market. The answer seems to be a mix of yes and no. It depends on where exactly you use it. There is a very brilliant chapter on this in the economic survey itself and several other literature. I would like one part of third-year commerce students, some subjects to focus on this, because this is the subject for the future. You have to learn it inside out. And the effect of AI, generic AI, specific AI, with reference to specific industries is very important to know. The conclusion seems to be that it will not displace jobs. It will only enhance and maybe recalibrate the way you do your work. So it's an emerging subject where all of you have to focus attention on and see that this is not taken in a way that it is going to completely sort of decelerate the job market. That's not the way we have to look at AI, but AI has come to stay, and the whole technology game is panning out differently. The only word of caution I want to draw your attention to is, please use technology as an aid, as a catalyst. Don't be a slave to technology. Don't let technology dictate to you. You have to dictate technology, not the other way around. But WhatsApp should not dictate your life. WhatsApp is an enabler. It cannot be dictating your lives. So please use technology in the way it has to be used, and don't allow it to guide your destiny or the way it shapes your life. That's the way you have to look at artificial intelligence. So I just want to conclude by saying that, as I mentioned to all of you, the budget is important to everybody. I think Swami Maharaj and Professor Chandrasekhar also mentioned that all of us are stakeholders in this budget, in some sense. We own it, and we have to go through it in the way we want to look at it. So many newspapers are analyzing it the way they have. In fact, today's Mint and Economic Times has got very industry-wise, very specific focus where it is affecting, which sector and all that. Go through it very carefully. Why it is important to you is when you go for interviews, particularly when you are being interviewed for your jobs, the interviewer also attaches a lot of importance in the way you have understood the overall macroeconomics of this country, not necessarily on the job questions that you need to answer. You need to be an all-rounder, you need to be all-pervasive with your understanding. And my advice, which has helped me, I don't know, I think it is appropriate that I also give you the advice which I have learned from here only. It is good to remember some numbers also. Some numbers you should always remember. At a macro level, it will always help you to understand things better and put it across also more effectively. So I only want to conclude today. I got a very interesting quote from Swami Vivekananda.
So before that, can you say some positives and negatives of this budget?
The positives are about the continuity. Infrastructure, continuity, and ensuring that the bottom of the pyramid, the middle class, are the focused attention. That is the positive. The negative, I would say, is that, I mean, it's a very technical thing on negativity. I think they lost the opportunity on the tax side, where they could have done some reforms on the pending litigation matters. There are a lot of changes on nitty-gritty on tax. I'm not getting into this long-term capital gain and all those things. Those are all rationalization. 10 become 12.5%, and then 20 has become whatever, 20% tax and all that. The negative is the problem of litigation, tax litigation in this country is so profound that they could have had some scheme or some sort of a one-time measure to clear off the backlog, which they lost. The reason could be they want to completely have a new act in 6 months' time. So maybe they're looking at it in that basis. But this litigation of tax is the biggest problem. It's this budget has no sort of a message around how to reduce litigation in our tax system. That I see as a major negative. On indirect tax, there are a lot of positives. Rationalization of customs, there's GST has now settled down. So I don't see any major sort of turbulence as far as the indirect taxes are concerned. But as I mentioned, it's every budget now from now on will only be a continuation budget, sir. Because there is nothing now, we can't go back now on what some of these initiatives are. Because most of these initiatives are driven now by necessity, and it has produced by and large good results. So there is nothing called going back. So it will be very continuous. The main thing is now monitoring the performance, outcomes. If you are able to measure outcome properly and ensure that accountability and outcomes are properly determined, then it is. We are almost there. And last, if you are taking the states along in the budget making process. Somewhere, some states seem to have their own agenda around the financial budgets and all that. So if all states are able to align themselves and integrate with the national agenda, it will be good. But there are political issues around it and all that. So that's something that we need to take care of. Swami Vivekananda mentioned, we are responsible for what we are and whatever we wish ourselves to be. We have the power to make ourselves. If whatever we are now is the result of past actions, it certainly follows that what we wish to be in the future can be produced by our present actions. So we have to know how to act now. That is his message. Very important quote. I just thought I will share with you. Your time has come now. As students, your time to act has come now. So seize it with both hands, and the future is all yours. Thank you once again.